It's 2 o'clock, so we'll call the commission meeting for Thursday, April 15th, 2021 to order. If everyone please stand, I'll lead us in invocation. I'll ask Commissioner Neal to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you today with, we just ask that you grant us guidance, Father, in this meeting. Help us to understand the needs of our citizens and help us to understand that we have a limited budget, but we need to provide the best water and sewer system that we can to meet everybody's needs in Glynn County. Father, we thank you for the opportunity we have to serve the county. We thank you for every one of our staff members and their families. We ask your protection for them. And Father, we thank you for allowing us to live in such a beautiful community and just help us to be good stewards of everything you've given us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No one has signed up for public comment, so we'll proceed.
Yes, sir. Ms. Ann Dittmer has signed up, and she would like to speak about the Village Drive water line.
Ms. Ann Zittmer. Okay.
Can I take this off? Is that okay? Okay. All right. I'm Ann Dittmer, and I'm a Village Drive resident, and I'm also the president of the Village Bluff POA Property Owners Association. I'm speaking today about the proposed water line into Village Drive. This project first came to our attention just a couple of weeks ago, and we were quite surprised to hear about it. No one from the JWSC had contacted us or canvassed the area or the neighborhood to determine the need or the interest. When a resident asked a commissioner very basic questions about the project plans, she was essentially told she did not have recognized authority to ask questions or to receive answers. And so this response led to the Village Bluff POA filing a GORA request for the information. Your staff initially stated that JWSC had received 4 to 5 calls about water and sewer over the last few years. Presently, all those homeowners who made calls have already installed wells. Some were told as recently as last year that they would have to pay thousands of dollars to access water, with no mention whatsoever of the potential of a planned $350,000 line that would be paid for by the Joint Water and Sewer Commission. Any calls from Musgrove and Wally Park, by the way, should obviously not be counted. They are not even in our subdivision. All new and existing homes in our neighborhood have wells. The neighborhood canvass done this week, knocking on doors, said that no one wanted water. So you can see why we find this water line extension odd, given that over the last few years we've watched citizens of Glynn County beg for water in different neighborhoods such as Ellis Point or Arco, or even the Terry Creek mobile home park threatened with contaminated groundwater. JWSC staff had routinely been instructed to canvass neighborhoods for interest and need, get letters of intent, and calculate usage estimates to justify investment. It's been implied by some of the members here that the POA requested this project. I can assure you that's not true. You all should have received a letter from our lawyer yesterday. The lawyers have advised you to take this project off the table while multiple legal disputes over the ownership and location of Village Drive, their easements and right-of-ways make their way through the court system. As the island's oldest neighborhood, what we really want to do too on all of this is to preserve our mature live oak tree canopy, which lies within 2 to 4 feet of the street. It's very narrow. Nationally recognized as a live oak specialist, the local certified arborist Raj Dittmer will assert that any digging that disrupts their root systems will greatly affect their health. So I leave you with one key unanswered question. Who is this project really for? With absolutely no neighborhood engagement and a reluctance to even share project information with us, it's certainly not for Village Bluff. We hope for the credibility of the Joint Water and Sewer Commission that this $350,000 line you want to install is not ultimately intended for the planned restrooms at the privately owned Land Trust Waterfront Park. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dittmer. Let's proceed to the committee updates. We had a Facilities Committee meeting yesterday. And the committee approved the award of the Pump Station 4116 contract to be presented to the full commission for approval today. Also, we discussed a memorandum of understanding with Glynn County so far as the Pump Station 4116 pump station. We also awarded the contract for the Pump Station 4036 Gravity Basin CIPP award, and also the automatic transfer switches installation contract award, subject to receipt of enough funds from FEMA and GEMA. We discussed the capital projects plan and voted to submit that to the full commission for approval. Pump Station 4003, we had a change order for that, which will be discussed in a few minutes. We have good news on all of the 3 water pollution control plants. The Academy Creek plant is operating at 58% of its capacity. Dunbar Creek is operating at 80% of its capacity, and the Southport plant is operating at 31% of its capacity. And all of them are well within their discharge permits. On the capital project report, Mr. Klein gave us a good report with a lot of photos. We actually have 22 different projects that we discussed. So a lot of work is being done. I want to commend the staff. We have a lot of contractors out there, and we're just trying to improve our system as quick as we can possibly do that. I'll now turn it over to Commissioner Duncan for the Finance Committee meeting.
Thank you, Chairman. The Finance Committee met yesterday, and we approved or endorsed a number of items to forward to the full commission for today. One keynote to observe is the fiscal year 21-22 budget that was approved. And just general highlights on it, the bottom line on the budget is essentially what we've had for the current fiscal year. So kudos to the utility team for their execution, planning, and now budget for the next fiscal year. We're budgeted at $33,300,000 that passed through the Finance Committee yesterday. Capital projects plan was endorsed. The award for the pump station 4116 was approved to pass along to the full commission, as were the MOU for the pump station and with the county. That serves or supports the safety complex, the public safety complex, and the new animal control center. Then the automatic transfer switch installation contract was also approved by the Finance Committee. And then one last item was a leak adjustment for Glynn County at Neptune Park. We talked about some alternative funding for a number of our major projects. The alternative funding that would be to address the lack of the 2021 SPLOST. We are looking at the possibility of loans for that. We've readdressed the priorities on that list. We've not yet come to a recommendation from the Finance Committee to offer, but we've looked at what the potential impact would be to the ratepayers for that. And then for the month-end statement, we looked at, and the short answer on that one is we're in a glide path to land where we projected our burn rate for the last period is a continuing increase as our projects accelerate in construction. So that completes my report, Chairman.
Thank you. We'll proceed to the approval section of the meeting. Item 1 is minutes from the March 18th, 2021 regular meeting. Can I have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
A second.
Motion is second. All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Fiscal year 2021-2022 budget. Mr. Burrows.
Yes, sir. The fiscal year 2022 budget that is before you today is a $33.3 million budget. Last year's budget was a $33.4 million budget. We have went over this in detail at the Finance Committee at both the March and April meetings. We discussed the changes in the revenues as far as where the line items are coming in and the reasons for those changes, as well as some of the major line item changes in the expense. Of note, the overall staffing request has reduced from 157 to 156 staff members. The cost of living adjustment requested is 1.79%. Through changes in staffing reductions, as well as changes to insurance, workers' comp, and other personnel line items, the actual personnel costs have decreased very slightly, $4,750, and that includes the cost of living adjustment. Capital costs are set to increase in this budget slightly from the purchase of new equipment. That is a year-to-year decision. The debt service, as we get further into our bond payments, has reduced by $142,000. All of this, sum total, brings us to an increase in R&R reserve, which is where we fund capital projects from, by $279,300. With that, given the detail we went through at the two Finance Committee meetings, I will open it up for any questions. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to offer a motion, make the motion that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission take the following actions. 1, approve the submission of the proposed fiscal year 2022 JWSC budget to the City of Brunswick and to Glynn County for their review and comment. And 2, to approve the fiscal year 2022 JWSC budget in the amount of $33,300,000, subject to revisions resulting from the comments received from the City of Brunswick and/or Glynn County.
I'll second it, but I do have, it's kind of a more of a way of doing business question. But I mean, if something is a formal recommendation from the Finance Committee, I mean, shouldn't our motions not kind of say, you know, we move to accept the Finance Committee's recommendation, all blah, 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 blah? I mean, why have a formal recommendation from a committee if we don't, if it's just, I'm just asking for more from maybe a nomenclature perspective, anything, but I don't know how the county does it or city does it. I've never paid attention, but.
It's usually, that would usually be on a consent agenda unless somebody pulled it for.
But I see your point too. Your point is what
Yeah,
I'll take.
it is.
Yes.
But it does.
Because there's been a couple times when something was voted down at a committee meeting and then was still kind of
Mm-hmm.
on the agenda the next day, or vice versa. It was voted on by, I mean, one time we had something that was voted on by a committee, and then, you know, we ended up pulling it from the agenda. I mean, it seems like to me, if it goes through committee and a formal recommendation from committee, we need to take action on the committee recommendation, but maybe that's,
We can certainly have that adjusted for the next meeting.
I don't know if that's true or not. I'm asking a question.
Yeah, we can look into it and
Probably-
see how that goes.
It might not be something we need to have by the next meeting, but just point of clarity.
I'll look and see if there's anything in Robert's rules about it, but the committee meetings are not formal, meetings, so there's no official action that comes out of the committee meetings.
Then why are we voting at the committee meeting? Why not just discuss it and head nod? I'm just asking.
Don't we give a recommendation to the full commission? I think that's
Yeah, but that's not
probably
what
the
this
primary.
says.
That, you're right.
It doesn't say anything about that recommendation.
Right.
I mean, other than the, you know, chairman of the finance committee's report from earlier, this.
Well, what I normally do is I will ask, has there been a recommendation from the Finance Committee when I get a motion such as this? Then the Finance Committee will speak up and say yes, either yes or no. They vote approval or non-approval. So that's what I normally do if I get something similar to this.
Maybe a recommendation from Charlie on what that's what it is.
We'll look into it.
I second.
Or the chairman could ask that question, hey, have the Finance Committee recommended, whatever, you know, like that. I got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Burrow, you stated in here as you were reading about the Finance Committee, I believe the Finance Chairman said so as well, Committee Chair said about the cost of living adjustments to personnel.
That's correct.
Okay, so you're saying that, and that was based on?
That's based off of CPI from February. We do it from February of one year to February of the next year, so that's based off of U.S.
So
labor.
that means there will be an increase in salary to those
Beginning at
costs.
the first day of the new fiscal year.
Now, I don't know, I probably should know this, but don't, if we have a negative CPI, what happens?
If we had a negative CPI, then the recommendation would be just to maintain with no cost of living increase.
Okay, all right. And this year is 1 point what?
1.79%.
Okay, thanks.
And if I could add, on the county, if it comes from committee, it comes forward and doesn't need a second. So this is a recommendation from Finance Committee and doesn't need a second.
Yeah, that's kind of the way,
Yeah.
I've seen some local businesses do it too.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Chairman, I have one. I would just like to thank all of the staff members for all the hard work that they put into this budget. It is really a fine piece of work, and I know it's a lot of effort, and we really held the line. We saved money in places and prevented us from going up higher. And I want to just thank all the people who are involved for all the hours they put in, and I'm sure extra hours.
Mr. Chairman, I think one other question, comment too, is that I too echo that about the Finance Committee, and I want to add my kudos for them holding the line and not increasing to the ratepayers, increasing the rates, because I realized that everybody kind of thought it would happen since lots didn't get passed, that there would be a change in rates. So I appreciate that so much. I think this community probably appreciate it well than what you think. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
And if I could just add one question, what was the COLA for this fiscal year?
The current fiscal year was 1.66%, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
No other questions, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item on the agenda is the Capital Projects Plan fiscal year 2021-2022. This project was, as we discussed, it was passed by both the Finance Committee and the Facility Committee yesterday to be presented to the full commission. But since then, I've been involved in some discussions about there's right-of-way issues and there's some other issues. And I want to take one of the items off the list, and that's the Village Drive Water Main Extension. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the capital projects plan with the exception of Village Drive Water Main Extension.
I'll second the motion.
Motion is second. Are there any questions or comments?
No, sir, but based off of the same conversation I had yesterday, well, I guess I
Right.
would say no, sir, I do. But I'd like to amend that motion to say endorse, because really, we're not approving these projects at this
Okay.
point. We are approving this as a guide for staff to use. I mean, so this, even if we approve that today, that is not to mean that this is that we're
Okay.
gonna move forward for this project. This simply means that these are the things that are on our radar, the things that we're gonna work toward, and we're asking staff to research. So, I mean, I agree with you about moving the Village Drive, but I also would like to formally, endorse, or formally make a motion to amend your motion to say endorse this guide, as was, which is what came out of finance yesterday.
Right.
I'll second the motion for amendment.
So the motion is going to say the Brunswick-Glynn County Joint Water and Sewer Commission endorses the 2021 capital projects plan as presented with the exception of the next to last item, the Village Drive water main extension.
And my understanding is that sets a guide for the staff to work towards these, but
Right.
they still have to bring each of these back as a formal project before we take the action on it.
Every contract awarded as a portion will come back to the board.
And I think one of the things that's important is this kind of information is what we also need to do to try to get contractors interested in
Right.
bidding
This
things.
gives them
And they see what's coming up for the next fiscal year, and
Right.
a little, something to look at there.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you very much. Next item is leak adjustment, Glynn County. Mr. Burrs?
Yes, sir. This is titled as leak adjustment because that's what everyone knows these as. However, this is actually a pool fill adjustment. They had to drain and do repair work to the Neptune Park pool, and so the Glynn County Board of Commissioners has requested a pool fill adjustment in accordance with that. For failure to maintain pools or appliances, you're actually excluded from leak adjustment, but once you fill it back up, you can get the sewer charges removed for the pool fill. Anything over $2,000 according to city and county ordinances requires approval from the commission. So the requested pool fill adjustment is for $15,345.56 to the account of the Glynn County Board of Commissioners.
Can I hear a motion?
I'll move that the Brunswick-Glynn County Joint Water Sewer Commission approve the pool fill adjustment in the amount of $15,346.56 to the account of the Glynn County Board of Commissioners as presented.
Second that motion.
Mr. Attorney, should I recuse myself in this vote?
Yes, sir.
Explain as to why it's so much.
Well, of course, we're adjusting the sewer off because it's a pool fill adjustment. Sewer is approximately 2.5 times the price of the water. So with the size of the Neptune Park pool and the sewer charge being $7.73 a thousand, that is why it gets to that amount of money.
So most of this is stuff that didn't even get into the system anyway.
That's exactly correct.
Sewer, was billed, but it never got to the sewer because it never left the pool to get to the sewer.
That's correct.
Okay. And what percentage of that is the sewer?
All of it is a sewer. On the pool fill adjustment, it is 100% sewer. There is no water adjustment.
Okay. So basically, there's no.
Mr. Burrows, how are they
No
maintaining
cost
this
to
on a
us.
regular basis?
Yes, they have corrected the issue. In the documentation, you'll find the report from the plumber that fixed everything. So their usage has went back to normal, so they are maintaining it.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 5-0, 7-0, thank you.
6-0.
6-0, excuse me.
One extension.
Next item is Memorandum of Understanding, Pump Station 4116 Contract Award. Mr. Burrows?
Yes, sir. Items 5 and 6 go together. This is for the award of a contract for Pump Station 4116, which serves a public safety complex right off of Golden Isles Parkway. It also will be serving the new Glynn County Animal Control Shelter. Work items include new precast concrete wet well with electrical and SCADA components, new pumps, discharge piping, and a 6-inch PVC force main out into the right-of-way. We solicited bids on Friday, February 21st, and we had 3 bids come in, and this is the closest bid that we've ever had, I do believe, here. But the low bid was for Southern Civil LLC and $498,499. That is acceptable to JWSC staff and is a 120-day contract. Funding for this project will actually come from Glynn County. The next item is a memorandum of understanding to reimburse JWSC for the project. Essentially, we will be performing the project and invoicing Glynn County for the work, similar to how they did on, say, the East Beach Demery project or the city's doing on L Street and Magnolia. So we will work as a pass-through and provide project management services.
And on this, are there any sewage usage that will be upstream from this?
Currently, that is the most northern point that is tied on to the sewage use.
Yeah, that didn't quite answer. Is there, are there projects on the board now that would tie into this at that point?
Not
And
into-
should consideration be given for future growth or some kind of reimbursement for tie-ins in the future to projects upstream?
Currently, there are no known projects that would use this pump station other than the existing animal control facility. The Bergen Woods facility, which we'll be discussing shortly, will be putting in the section of force main that these new upgrades will be tying into downstream of the pump station.
Downstream.
Downstream of the pump station.
All right.
Any other questions?
It wasn't the answer I wanted, but it's right. But I can't pose another question.
You got to change your bait, go fishing. We don't, I'd like to make the motion. The motion would be that Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission enter into a contract for the the Pump Station 4116 Rehabilitation and Force Main Upgrade Project with Southern Civil LLC in the amount of $498,499, pending the execution of a MOU with Glynn County for reimbursement of the project cost.
Second.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is the memo for the Memorandum of Understanding. Can I have a motion to accept that?
Motion, sir. I hereby move that Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the memorandum of understanding with Glynn County related to the safety complex infrastructure improvements.
Second.
Motion second, any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is the Bergen Woods Comprehensive Agreement Amendment. This was discussed in facilities yesterday, and we asked our attorney to get back and make some revisions to that. So, Charlie, do you want to update us?
Yes, sir. I was able to talk with the developer's attorney, and they are fine with the JWSC bidding and managing the project. They did, so we went back and amended or revised the amended agreement, and you'll see in here that we've taken out the option for the developer to manage the project. So the JWSC will be doing this, will be managing the project themselves. The 70-30 agreement remains in the agreement in case the cost of the project exceeds the CIFs, or in case the developer decides not to move forward with their development. They're still paying for the project, but if they decide not to move forward with the development, then they'll get their money back on the 70-30 as well.
Say that one more time, please.
The developer, all right, so the developer has already got the construction plans and so forth in place. They're going to pay for the project, the force main project, and they intend to prepay their tap fees and then get a credit for or towards their tap fees. If they don't decide to go forward with the development, then they'll get their capital tap fees back on a 70-30 agreement, or the amounts that they paid for the force main project.
They'll get 100% back 70% of the time, 70%
That's right.
of tap fees at a time, or they'll get 70% of their investment back?
No, they'll get the 100% back, assuming it happens within 10 years. It's 70% every quarter.
Where's the 10-year piece? That's what I was going to ask you.
It's the term of the agreement,
Where's it at?
Section 6, page 6.
And the non-red line copy is on page 5.
Andrew, I thought we're going to be bidding this out, right?
That's correct.
And then we need to construct it.
That's correct.
And the developer's paying us the tap fees so we can have the money to construct it.
That's correct.
Now, he has a right to get those tap fees back, is that what I'm understanding? If he backs out from the project?
Yes, sir, over time, once somebody else ties on. If nobody else ties on within 10 years, then they don't get their.
Well, we've got other people upstream that are going to be tying on. I mean, what we just talked about is tying on to it. I mean, so there's a lot of people going to be tying on to it.
Yes, sir, I don't think that the county's going to be paying CIFs, though, are they?
I believe they did.
Did they?
Who
Okay.
paid, you know,
But
least
it'll
you
be
paid for the meter.
after the force
So
main's
he
installed.
only gets the money back if somebody upstream
Uses the
Force
improvements
main.
he
uses the
installed.
improvements that he paid for.
That's right.
He gets 70% or 30% back
70% of the tap fees that are paid in every quarter.
as they're paid in. It sounds like we got a
Yep.
huge bookkeeping thing we got to keep up on this.
Yes, sir, we have several 70-30 agreements in place.
Have any of them created problems for us?
Not necessarily. It's just keeping track of it. The finance department keeps track of all
We can
that.
address that some other
What do you
time.
mean, not necessarily?
It's just setting it up in the system and keeping track of it. A little bit of front-end work, and then we keep track of it that way. It's not a problem once it gets set up.
Let's talk about that at another facilities meeting and
Yes, sir.
finance meeting. Okay, we've got a motion. Do we have a motion on this?
I don't think we do. I hereby move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the amended comprehensive agreement with Hudson Oak Brunswick LLC.
A second?
Second.
Any other questions?
I do, yeah. So, term agreement, so after 10 years, anybody that ties on,
They don't get the money.
what about the reserving capacity? That doesn't, after 10 years, they're no longer reserving capacity either. What I'm reading, it doesn't include.
Right, including that's right,
termination.
that's right,
Right.
that's right.
During those 10 years that they're, being, who makes the call on whether or not the capacity is there for these other people to tie on so that you do. Okay, I could just see a conflict where somebody saying, hey, I'd like to tie on, and the guy saying, yeah, I want to let him tie on too, because I want that 70%. But if you're already at capacity, then we've got capacity reserved over here. We're double dipping.
They'd be treated just like every other capacity request we get, regardless of whether there's a 70-30 agreement or not.
Okay. I wish there was a way to make all these simpler. These things, they all seem to be different, and they all seem to be special terms, and they all seem to be, I just wish there was a way to come up with maybe just discuss at committee.
I agree. Yeah, we need to come up with I'll call it a boilerplate document that's much simpler to manage going forward, and relieves the utility from a lot of bookkeeping and refunding to a developer that decides they're not going to develop. Have they applied for a building permit?
It's in review right now. Our construction plans are in review.
They didn't apply for a building permit, but the construction plans are under review for the on-site.
Okay, for the site utilities presumably and clearing, have they cleared the land?
I don't believe they've done any site work out there. Yeah, I believe it.
Do they have an on-site manager or an on-site office there that somebody's managing the project?
Not currently.
Okay, so at this point, they're still going through the process of approvals for the development, and they've not made any real moves toward construction yet, other than to engage us for what it's going to take to get the utility capacity there.
They have completed the off-site improvement plans necessary for this agreement, and they've also, like I said, submitted the on-site construction plans for the utility and the site work. So in that regard, they have made that progress.
Were they ever approved for the apartments? Originally it was apartments.
Originally it was apartments, now it is townhomes.
Were they permitted for apartments?
The permit hadn't been approved because it's still at construction plan phase.
Yeah, I'll have to go double check, but I'm not confident they made it all the way to building permit approval for apartments.
I've got one other question. Page 6 of 9, section 11, termination agreement. The developer may terminate the agreement without cause by giving 30 days written notice. What would be their possible reason for them doing that? It sounds like if they terminate it, they're losing everything. I mean, what would be an incentive? I mean, what would even be a possible reason why they terminate the agreement?
I don't know.
Then there for a reason, what would be what possible scenario would they have to terminate an agreement?
Well, there are two things I can think of, Commissioners. One is they have loss of funding. The other is the market conditions change such that it doesn't fit their business plan. Those are the two things that kind of my radar goes up on, and that's.
Well, that was mine too, and that was kind of the
Yeah.
The question is if once we start building and if they decide to cancel it and they're not reimbursing us, we've got this.
Well, before we start building it, they will have paid their impact fee.
Right.
So our money,
They've already paid, so if
we'll have that money in hand.
right. So there would be no reason for them to terminate it at that point.
Why is it in there?
Well,
Could it be that they might change their mind before they actually pay the fee? But if they change their mind before we pay the fee, then we are not out of pocket any expense either. So,
yeah,
I see that too. I just want to make sure we're protected. I'm not trying to be
Yeah, they could-
overly legalistic.
they could terminate it before they pay their fees. If we bid the project over the next, whatever it takes to bid the project, they could terminate it during that period.
But then at that point, they was engineering, I would think at least.
They've paid for engineering, we have not.
They paid the engineer direct for this.
And said utility terminate.
I think we got a motion.
Any other
Have a
questions?
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is Pump Station 4036 Gravity Basin CIPP Contract Award. Mr. Burris.
Yes, sir. We issued an invitation for bid on March the 5th for this project. This includes 5,132 linear feet of 15 to 30-inch gravity sewer rehabilitation by cured-in-place piping. This will run along the railroad and Glendale Drive and up 341. This will be significant for the amount of flow that will be turned in with a new SPLOST project that is under contract, and also for potential rerouting of flows at the exit 36 area. We got 3 bids. Low bid with Bionomics Services at $923,333.69. It is a 150-day contract, and project is currently funded in the R&R reserve. Bionomics has done substantial work for us in both manhole rehab and cured-in-place piping rehab in the past, and this is in alignment with staff's original estimate for this project. And a certified bid tab is attached for your review.
This item was approved by the Facilities Committee yesterday. Do I have a motion?
Sir, I make a motion that Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission enter a contract for the pump station 4036 Gravity Basin CIPP rehabilitation with Biodomestics Services, LLC, in the amount of $923,333.69.
I'll second the motion.
Motion second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Next item is automatic transfer switch installation contract award. Mr. Burns.
Yes, sir. We went out for bid on March the 10th for this. This is a GEMA-funded project. We have entered into a recipient-subrecipient agreement with GEMA for installation of 22 transfer switches. We have been in consistent contact with GEMA that a budget adjustment will be necessary to facilitate the project because the approved funding is $58,762. We took bids on April the 13th, and the low bid was Y Delta Inc. out of Statesboro with $773,085. This is in line with the engineering estimate provided, and the estimated duration of the project is 120 calendar days. There is sufficient funding in the R&R project for this to fund the entire project. We have been in communication over the last 2 days with GEMA on the requested budget adjustment. If adjustment is approved, GEMA and FEMA will reimburse 85% of the project cost of JWSC, and if the full budget adjustment is requested, the total outlay by JWSC after reimbursement will be $115,962. This item was presented to Facilities and Finance Committees yesterday, and we do not know as of yet if we will get the full amount, but GEMA has at least committed that we will be getting some adjustment for this project. So the requested motion is to approve pending the budget adjustment. If the full budget is not adjusted, we'll bring this item back for consideration at the next meeting, and we can consider at that point either funding without reimbursement or reducing the scope to meet the reimbursement amount.
Can I have a motion?
I make the motion that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission award a contract for the installation of 22 automatic transfer switches to Y Delta Inc. in the amount of $773,085 pending budget adjustment from GEMA.
A second.
Motion and second. Are there any questions concerning this? There is a follow-up project with this. It will be bidding pretty soon. Is how many generators?
It's 8 fixed generators and 5 portable generators. There'll be 5 fixed generators at water sites and 3 new fixed generators at the Academy Creek site, along with 5 portable generators. Those bid documents are under development right now.
One thing Commissioner Stevens mentioned yesterday, these are all automatic transfer switches. So that means we'll have fixed generators at each site, right?
No, sir. There'll be quick connections for hookup of portable generators. GEMA will have a fleet of portable generators, plus with the next project, our portable generators that can be landed at the site in advance of a storm event to automatically transfer. So there won't be a permanent generator at these sites.
And my question was really surrounding if these were, I mean, the key point there is if they're coming in advance of a storm
Right.
on loan, or if they're after a storm when the power's already out. If the power's already out, or we're responding to a power loss, there's no point paying for automatic generators.
Right.
I mean, automatic transfer switches, you just pull up, hook it up, and it's a manual throw. But if you're, got to anticipate power loss, then you don't want to have to drive somebody out there to do the power throw. You want it to be automatic. But the automatic probably double at least, if not quadruple the cost. So if it's not in advance of a storm, I was going to recommend that we do manual transfer switches.
Well, if they don't come up with the full amount, that might be one condition we might make too.
That might be that we strategically say
Right.
where we can do manually once they don't come up with the full
Yeah.
amount. Absolutely.
Okay.
Be something to consider. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7, Mr. Stevens?
I'm sorry.
7-0. Thank you.
I'll talk to you after the motion.
Next item is Pump Station 4003 upgrades, change order number 2. This is a change order that actually is requested by the contractor just for time at no additional cost. Mr. Klein, you want to give us a summary on that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Pump Station 4003. Construction's taking place down there close to the Brunswick waterfront, down by the marina. And the original contract completion date for this project was in March. Early on, we did have a change order number 1, which is a time-only extension that increased the contract time to April 16th, and obviously, we're not going to meet that date. So the contractors come back to us for some additional time only, no money added to the project with this change order. The reason for the delays or for the needed time extensions that the contractor has cited to us is they have provided some weather delay days with the documentation to back up the weather delays. Challenges with materials delivery through the COVID pandemic cited as well. The engineer record has evaluated this request, provided us with a memo with their recommendation. They are endorsing the recommendation for the time extension. Would point out, contractor is making a good effort out there. They're working extended hours during the week. They're also working Saturdays. I believe they got 3 crews on site now. They're doing what they can to catch up and make progress. I think to allow a safe completion of this and get a good product at the end, staff is making a recommendation to allow for these extended days.
Mr. Klein, tell us about they're putting in a pretty large sewer line to connect to the existing sewer line. Is that K Street that it comes in down to it?
Correct,
Are
sir.
we going to have to bypass traffic around while that's being done?
So the way that it's designed is the alleyway now is closed to through traffic.
Right.
So the site is occupying that through right-of-way permit with the city right now. So as far as K Street though, traffic's going to be minimally impacted until the point of connection within there.
We don't have to replace out in K Street. We just have to make the point of connection at the manhole.
Yeah, at the most it's a.
And the manhole's on the edge of the alley so it's not out in K Street?
Correct.
Okay.
So minimal interruption of traffic on K Street.
Okay.
So this is to negate liquidated damages.
Well, thank you, Commissioner, for pointing that out. This contract does have a $2,000 per day liquidated damages allowance in there. Just pointing that out. Correct. This will extend their contract time to
negate that.
To negate that. That's correct.
Unless they go past this one.
I got a question. The first change order, they asked for a 30-day push out. And assuming that they figured they could have it completed within 30 days, but now they need an extra 50 days. Did they discover something come up that they didn't realize?
The original, Commissioner, the original 30-day extension was due to contractors' request to make some changes to the design of the wet well, the construction of the wet well from a cast in place to a precast structure. Along with that was some concern with dewatering with the existing structure out there. And I would say that since that point, dewatering's been quite a challenge for them. Okay. It's
there you go.
Yeah, it's obviously for the location, you can look across the street and see the river.
Okay.
So dewatering's been quite a challenge for them, and they're keeping up with it. But that is part of the.
Okay.
Also, we're not having to pay for the bypass while this work's being
That's
done.
correct.
The contractor's
Correct.
paying all the bypass costs for
Correct.
this.
Okay.
Why would we even have liquidated damages? What is our cost by that being delayed? What's the cost to us being delayed?
I would say additional costs could be engineering inspection time, if we have to keep our consultant on staff to, for a delayed time to continue inspections. staff time, certainly.
Yes.
If we were bypassing potentially, or if we had to do any kind of rush, if we had a major project that was on hold, waiting on this project, any kind of quantifiable impacts.
I mean, I for one am certainly sensitive to this and don't have any issue with it, because I mean, I know what it is. There's a supply chain issue in this country right now. I have no issue with this. I asked the question just because, you know, to me, I think it probes a bigger conversation about liquidated damages in general. I mean, why are we putting liquidated damages on projects? Is it a punishment for not meeting the deadline, or is it a, you know, because we have significant costs? And I personally think we should reserve liquidated damages for when we have a direct cost of them not doing it. I mean, if we're building a football stadium and kickoff is August 1st, you know, we want you out of there by July, so we got a month to plan, and there's cost to us if you're not out of there by November. But if it's a line in the ground that we're not doing anything special about, in my opinion, putting liquidated damages in contracts just raises the risk level for the contractor and thus raises the price for the contractor. So I think we ought to have a bigger discussion in general. Maybe y'all take a look at it on when we do liquidated damages and when we don't. I mean, obviously, we don't want things to go on and on and on forever. You know, so we need some kind of way to put things to a close. But I personally am not a big fan of liquidated damages because, in my opinion, you know, you run the risk of a contractor fearing liquidated damages and just increasing their bid to account for it, and then we end up paying more for every project in order to try to protect onesie-twosie ones. But in this case, I mean, I think it makes sense to me to.
Liquidated damages, the reason we have them in there, number one, is to protect us, but also if the liquidated damages are unreasonable, the contractor, you're right, they will. And if the time period is unreasonable, then they will just add that to the contract price. But the reason we have a liquidated damage clause in there is it's hard for us to determine our actual cost. And so that's in there. As opposed to accessing liquidated damages, sometimes if we could determine our actual cost, then obviously we could just request that instead of the liquidated damages. But as it relates to what Mr. Klein said, we have an engineering firm that's supposed to be monitoring the inspection on this project. Our staff goes out there and does a little bit, but we should not be doing the majority of the inspection. And it's my understanding that the engineer is not charging us any additional inspection fees for this. So there's no additional cost out of us except for a little bit of staff time. But that was a good point, Mr. Commissioner.
Not we have a conversation about it, it's just, you know,
Right.
bringing it up for something for y'all to think about, you know, I mean, let's do liquidated damages when it makes sense, not just as a standard business practice. And it makes sense in business practice. I don't, you know, it's in my primary industry, obviously, but, you know, in my experience, it can, like I said, if they feel like it's gonna cost them unfair, there's risk, they're just tacking it on as a percentage to just cover their risk.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Did we get an actual?
I don't think we did we do?
We had a motion.
Didn't get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Brunswick-Glynn Joint Water and Sewer Commission approve the above described change order number 2 for contract time extension to June 5th, 2021.
Second the motion.
Motion second. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Executive Director's update.
Yes, sir. We have 2 requests for proposals that are due back prior to the next meeting. Auditing services, which we do every 3 years, and then a total compensation study. The plan is to provide a recommendation for those contracts awards at the May meeting. Georgia Rural Water will be holding their annual every other year but 2020 spring conference on Jekyll Island the week of May the 11th. If you are interested in attending, please let me know. And then we are actually kicking back off the Georgia Utility Coordinating Council meetings, quarterly meetings here at the JWSC tomorrow. So Georgia 811 will be coming in, sponsoring the event, and providing information on Georgia 811 services for both JWSC and local utility partners.
For my update, I just want to commend the staff for handling all the projects that we have. We have a lot more projects we need to be moving, so we're glad that y'all are moving fast with them, but we need to move moving a little bit quicker on some of them. So you've heard some of the commissioners say that today in other words, but we look forward to improving our system, and we just thank you for all the hard work y'all are doing. And I appreciate all the input from the commissioners, and every one of y'all had good input in today's meeting. I don't think we need an executive session, do we?
Yes,
Any other commissioners have any comments? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.